Freshman year, I experienced a landslide. Charles was the one who saved me. After that, I chased after him for 4 whole years, but he never seemed interested. I thought he didn't like me, until I overheard him telling his roommate, "I like Michelle, I really do. But I'm not sure if she likes me just because I saved her." He kept pushing me away to figure out if it was gratitude or genuine feelings. Luckily, I finally thought of a way to find out. His roommate asked him how he planned to verify it. Charles chuckled, "You know that alley behind the school? Lots of troublemakers hang around there. Today there's an early class." Knowing Charles, he probably won't have breakfast since he's been kinda avoiding me lately, telling me not to text him. So, I didn't want to tell him in advance, planning to pretend it was a chance encounter. I got breakfast first and waited on the route he had to take. After waiting a while, I finally saw him in the distance. I wanted to run right up to him, but I worried it'd seem too obvious and turn him off. So, I hid around the corner, planning to casually bump into him as he passed by. However, Charles and his roommate suddenly stopped near me. His roommate mumbled, "It's just an elective, should we ditch?" The others agreed, but Charles shook his head, "I have to go, Michelle will look for me after class." Hearing him say my name made my heart skip a beat with excitement. I had to hold back from jumping out. His roommate seemed confused. "I was gone for a few months and missed something?" "I thought you hated Michelle. What changed?" The other roommates laughed, and Charles quickly responded, "I like Michelle a lot." I was stunned. Since freshman year, I had been openly chasing after Charles, to the point everyone knew. People called me shameless, trying to snag the unattainable. Throughout these years, he never once looked back at me, but I kept hoping. I never expected Charles to like me all along. But if he did, why always act like he didn't? I couldn't understand, but then he continued. "Michelle is fond of me because I saved her. I wanted to test if it was that or if she likes me for who I am. So, for these years, I've been pushing her away, even speaking harshly." Charles paused, the hint of a smile on his brow, then looked at his roommates. "I finally thought of a way to find out." His roommate asked how. Charles chuckled, "That alley has a lot of thugs now, right?" "What does he mean?" "Since Michelle has a hero complex, put her in danger again, but with someone else saving her. If she still likes me after, I won't have to doubt her anymore." His words left me crushed. They turned and left without going to class. Before leaving, Charles texted me, saying just the sight of me made him sick and to stop bothering him. I've always listened to him. If he doesn't want to see me, I'll make sure he doesn't. As their figures faded, one roommate teased, "Charles, you really like Michelle, huh? Afraid she'd miss you, you roundabout told her not to look for you today." Charles shrugged, "Of course, I gotta care for the girl I like." Their voices drifted away, becoming indistinct with the wind. I stood there, lost in thought. Charles's idea of gratitude was from a landslide the summer after freshman year when I got trapped during a trip. The site blew up online before break, its beautiful scenery attracting many students, including Charles. Rain had trapped us on the mountain, and during the landslide, I got buried. I thought I was done for when he found me, kept me awake, and dug me out barehanded. I didn't know how long I'd been out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Charles was slumped by the bed, dirty and exhausted, hands in bandages. That's when we formally met. Due to that incident, we stayed in touch all summer. By the next semester, we were good friends. He always seemed ambiguous until I confessed. He turned cold, asking, "What makes you think you're worthy of me?" That hurt. But love can sometimes make you swallow your pride. I knew I liked him a lot, and breaking the ice meant either becoming a couple or losing a friend. So, I held on for a long time. From freshman to senior year, I chased after him, and he never once smiled at me. Honestly, it's exhausting. Love is something that runs out without reciprocation. I had already decided if by summer he didn't like me, I'd move on. I couldn't chase him forever. Hearing him now left me feeling absurd. I liked Charles long before that rescue. I first saw him when school started, felt my heart race, and started following him. I learned his name in class but never found a chance to meet him until fate intervened. I told him about that moment when my heart skipped a beat, but he didn't believe me. He just looked at me with this baffling expression. Back then, I didn't understand, but looking back now, maybe he thought it was just an excuse. He thought I had a hero complex, so my affection for him wasn't pure at all. In hindsight, he never really trusted me. My thoughts were all over the place, and his silhouette faded into the distance, like he never really tried to get closer to me. It still hurts. But I'm stubborn. When I like someone, I can hold on for 4 years, bearing countless eye rolls and sarcastic remarks. But when I realized this feeling wasn't worth it, I could also let it go. I just didn't expect Charles would almost get me killed over some ridiculous test. After I got wind of his plan, I started avoiding that alley behind the school. I didn't want to put myself in danger. But danger sometimes finds you. I usually have a part-time job on weekends, so I'd get back to school by 9 at night. Before, I'd take shortcuts to save time, but now I prefer walking the long way on the main streets for safety. During this whole time, Charles only texted me once. He said he wanted to meet behind the school, but I declined, saying I had important things to deal with. He was furious and called to yell at me, "Michelle, aren't you chasing me? If you like me, you should know nothing is more important than me." He said it so naturally, without a hint of affection in his voice. I guess I was fed up, so I hung up right away and decided not to listen to him anymore. After his plan fell through, I thought he'd give up, and I wouldn't bother him either. It'd be like we never knew each other. But I didn't see it coming when those thugs showed up in front of me at 9:35 p.m. I took a long detour to avoid that alley, but the path back to school still had a dark section. Next to it was an overgrown little house. Those thugs jumped out from there and surrounded me. One guy grabbed my phone from behind, leaving me with no way to call for help. The thug in charge had a photo, glanced at my face, and then smirked. "Michelle? Not bad looking." He gave me a sleazy smile, eyes scanning me, and then he whistled. "How about you keep me company for a night, and I won't bully you? How's that?" Fear, anger, and frustration boiled up. I shoved the guy coming at me, catching him off guard, and he tumbled to the ground. I turned and ran. He spat and cursed, then ordered his crew to catch me, saying he wanted to kill me. They were fast, 5 of them, and I couldn't even shout for help before someone covered my mouth and dragged me into that abandoned house. When the door slammed shut, I was utterly hopeless. The look in the thug's eyes wasn't just bluff, he truly intended to do harm. I kicked and screamed for them to stop. My clothes got torn, and his greasy hand gripped my shoulder. At that moment, I absolutely hated Charles. Why did he do this to me? I couldn't escape. My mouth was gagged, limbs pinned down, like a lamb to the slaughter, hopeless and closing my eyes. Then, the door got kicked in. I wanted to open my eyes but heard a stranger's voice tell me, "Don't open your eyes yet." Then came the sound of fighting, painful cries of the thugs, and maybe a knife cutting flesh. I couldn't help but open my eyes. Each thug had some injuries, and the leader held a knife. Its bloody tip left him looking puzzled. "I didn't mean to get anyone killed." He stammered before they all bolted, leaving only me and my rescuer in the room. He was a young guy with a really innocent face. Without a change of expression, he ran to me, knelt, and wrapped me in his jacket. "I'll get you out. It's not safe here." Still shaken, I followed him in a daze until we reached the alley. That's when I snapped back to reality and shoved him away. "This act is something else, huh? Really convincing." I glared at him coldly, and he seemed bewildered, blinking in confusion. A mocking smile crossed my face. "How much did Charles pay you? Must be a lot for you to risk so much." His expression read my sarcasm, and he opened his mouth as if to explain, but footsteps neared. He quickly pulled me into a corner. Charles and his roommates showed up, trailing an unfamiliar boy. Charles frowned and looked around. Didn't we agree to bring her here? Timing should be right. The boy behind them stepped forward. Charles, you sure about this whole hero rescue thing? Charles nodded, gave a shoulder pat to his friend. Jeff, just remember, Michelle is your sister-in-law, so don't get any funny ideas. This is just a plan of mine. Just be a hero, save her from those thugs, and then bow out. Leave the rest to me. Jeff nodded earnestly. Then Charles's phone rang, and they rushed back the way I'd come, soon disappearing from sight. It was in that moment I realized I'd misunderstood the guy with me. Turning around, his face had gone pale. Earlier, I hadn't noticed he was holding my torn black jacket over his stomach, but now I saw under it, his white shirt was drenched in blood. Panic hit me, and I raced out, aiming to get help from the nearby shopkeeper. I had to get him to a hospital. But as I stood up, he grabbed my arm, making me turn back. His eyes met mine. I didn't take money from anyone. I wasn't trying to hurt you. His voice was so pitiful, eyes red with emotion. Guilt washed over me, and I quickly apologized. I know. I'm sorry I misunderstood. But my phone was taken. I need to borrow one and get you to a hospital. Your wound is serious. He still didn't let go. Despite his extreme pallor and sweating forehead, he stubbornly asked me, will you stay with me? I nodded without hesitation. Of course, you got hurt saving me. I wouldn't just take off. Gotta have some conscience. He finally loosened his grip. I dashed to the shop, borrowed a phone, and soon the ambulance arrived. We got him to the hospital. His stomach was still bleeding. Right before being wheeled into surgery, he squeezed my hand once more and managed a weak smile. Don't forget my name this time, I'm Louis. And with that, they took him into the operating room, leaving me standing there, puzzled by his words. Louis? How does he seem to know me, and when did I forget his name? I couldn't remember. I borrowed a phone to call Sandy, hoping she'd cover for me at work. I needed to stay by Louis's side, at least until I knew he was safe. But as soon as Sandy answered, she sounded a bit frantic. Michelle, Charles is going crazy trying to find you. I think he's into you. Come back, it's a great opportunity. A great opportunity? Why did it feel like there was no chance for us anymore? I had called the police at the same time I brought Louis to the hospital. Right now, 2 officers were hurrying over. After a brief rundown of the situation, they asked me to assist with the investigation and come to the station to give a statement. Once at the police station, an officer walked over quickly. He was holding a white bag with a phone inside. Apparently, it was mine. Had they caught the person so quickly? I was surprised, and the officer across from me nodded. They caught them all, and they've confessed everything. But they still needed my statement. I nodded and was about to follow the officer when I heard a commotion at the station doors. I turned and felt a strong tug. The familiar presence surrounded me. Without looking up, I knew who it was. Michelle, you're not hurt, right? Charles's voice was full of concern. He let go of me slightly and placed his hands on my shoulders, checking for injuries. Seeing that I was unharmed, he sighed in relief. I just stared at him. Charles, the police said they caught everyone, including the mastermind. He was stunned for a moment, and the officer who had been talking to me nodded continuously, walking over with a smile, looking at Charles. Yeah, thanks to your classmate, they've all been caught. His words were loaded with meaning. Because the real mastermind was standing right in front of me, so who actually got caught? Seeing my silence, a trace of guilt flickered in Charles's eyes. Gone was his usual calm, and he seemed a bit rushed in his explanation. Michelle, you know Jeff in our class? He doesn't have a good situation, so he had bad intentions. He knew you worked nights, so he hooked up with some outsiders to threaten me for money using you. He smiled at me, but don't worry, they've caught him now. Hearing this, I pretty much understood everything. Charles came from a wealthy family, with power and influence. It was easy for them to find someone to take the fall. So, my words alone, without evidence to back them, were worthless. Given my family's situation, I couldn't stand up to Charles's family. So, I swallowed back what I initially wanted to say and pretended not to know. Unable to resist, I sarcastically added, "Well, he must be blind. Knowing you don't even like me, why would he think using me would get him money from you?" Charles's smile faltered but quickly recovered. "Yeah, he's blind. I only see you as a friend, don't overthink it." I agreed, pushed him aside, and followed the officer for the statement. The statement was just about my timeline from leaving work to arriving at the hospital. When asked if I knew Jeff, I didn't hide anything and told them the truth. Afterward, I returned to the lobby. Charles was still waiting. When he saw me, he approached quickly. "It's late. Let's head back to school." He naturally reached out to grab me, but I stepped back. His hand grasped air, and he paused, looking at me in surprise. In the past, if he showed even a little interest or got closer, I'd be thrilled. I had never been this cold. Someone got hurt saving me. I promised I'd stay with him at the hospital tonight. I'm not going back to school. His eyes turned angry with my words. "Michelle, what do you mean by that?" Ignoring him, I walked out, calling a cab on my phone as I went. But before long, he rushed over and grabbed my wrist again. He pulled hard, making me stumble back several steps. "Charles, what's gotten into you?" I looked at him, my feelings for him slowly fading over these days. Especially after tonight. Compared to liking him, I felt an overwhelming sense of disgust, lingering around me, refusing to dissipate. Maybe my eyes looked too unfamiliar to him. He paused, then sneered in anger. "Michelle, I really misjudged you. Any guy who saves you, you'll cling to willingly, even planning to stay at the hospital all night. Are you planning to repay him with your body?" I knew Charles could be sharp-tongued, but I hadn't expected him to be so cruel. I couldn't hold back and slapped him hard. "Charles, you're insane." He tilted his head, rubbing his cheek, pressing his tongue against his cheek, as if holding back emotions. "Fine, if you want to be cheap, don't come looking for me anymore." With that, he shoulder-bumped me and headed straight to his sports car, driving off. I watched the car disappear from view, trying to calm down and waiting for my cab. By the time I got back to the hospital, almost 2 hours had passed. I asked the nurse about Louis. He had been cut on the stomach, but thankfully no internal organs were hit. After stitching, he needed to be monitored for a few days. If nothing else happened, he could leave soon. I got his room number, filled in the visitor information, and rushed over. When I opened the door, Louis was leaning on the bed. He seemed lost in thought, staring out the window, looking a bit dazed and lonely. Hearing the door open, he slowly turned his head. His eyes were slightly vacant. When he saw me, there was a moment of pause. Louis blinked hard, slowly regaining focus, with a hint of a smile in his eyes. "This time you didn't lie. You really came back for me." Hearing this made me feel an unexpected pang of sadness. Before they took him in for surgery, I promised to stay with him. When he didn't see me afterward, he must have been disappointed. I hurried over, grabbed a chair, and sat down at his bedside. "The police came earlier. You were in surgery, so I went to the station for a statement. The distance was a bit far, took some time." "Louis, I wasn't trying to run away." Hearing my explanation, Louis didn't lighten up as much as I hoped. Instead, he frowned, unable to hide it. "My fault for making you go through all this at night, sorry." He lowered his head, eyes filled with guilt, looking utterly downcast. Already injured and having lost so much blood, his lips were pale. Sitting there, he looked frail. He got hurt saving me, yet he was apologizing. Just thinking about it, a huge wave of guilt washed over me. I quickly said, "You don't have to say sorry to me. If it wasn't for you suddenly being there, I would have been in big trouble. I should thank you, and I misunderstood you. I should be the one saying sorry. I looked at him as he slowly raised his head and blinked hard. His eyes were a bit red at the corners. You don't need to apologize, never. He tried hard to smile, very sweetly, like he was trying to comfort me. For some reason, my heart just softened immensely. So I asked him, by the way, how did you end up just passing by there? Hearing this, he lowered his eyes, making it hard to read his emotions. I wanted to earn some living expenses, so I work part-time on weekends. I nodded, looking at the time, then got up from my chair. Louis, it's really late. You're injured, you should get some rest. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with those clear eyes, like he wanted to say something but didn't. With just that look, it was like I could read his mind. So I pointed to the empty bed next to him. Don't worry, I'm not leaving. I'll sleep here. If you feel uncomfortable tonight, wake me up, okay? Upon hearing this, he smiled again, showing his cute little tiger teeth. I sat on the other bed, feeling truly exhausted after a long night, and yawned. The boy, wrapped in his blanket, looked over at me. When our eyes met, he smiled and said sweetly, "Good night." He was really sweet. So I smiled back, "Good night." Then, his ears turned a little red, and he silently pulled the blanket up a bit more. I set the alarm. Listening to its familiar tone, I turned it off with my eyes still closed. Just as I was about to go back to sleep, a thought hit me. This wasn't school, and it wasn't my dorm room either. It was a hospital. So I snapped my eyes open, quickly sat up, and instinctively looked at the bed next to me. Louis was already awake. He was holding a medical book, reading quietly, but looked over when he heard my movements. Good morning. Louis's voice was pleasant, a clear teenage tone with an inexplicable sweetness that made you want to ruffle his hair. So I did. I got out of bed, walked over, and couldn't resist patting his head. He didn't move, just looked up at me with those obedient eyes. I ruffled his hair gently. His bangs moved slightly, and his overly beautiful eyes picked up a bit of happiness. He leaned forward a bit. If you like touching my head, you can do it for a while longer. I couldn't help asking, how old are you? Louis's smile froze for a moment. He seemed to think about something, his eyes flickering before he slowly replied, in 2 months, I'll be an adult. My hand paused mid-air. So young? Sensing my reaction, Louis quickly added, I'm a freshman in college, not that young. I chuckled and slowly pulled my hand back. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but it seemed like I caught a hint of regret in his eyes. But it disappeared quickly. When I looked at him again, his gaze was calm, and he gave me another smile. I was a bit hungry. After the whole ordeal yesterday, that was expected. Delivery would take a while. So I went downstairs to the hospital cafeteria, bought 2 light breakfasts, and hurried back. Then I unwrapped one set, setting it in front of him. Louis took a sip of his porridge, looked up at me, his eyes sparkling with a smile. Thank you. He was just too sweet. I couldn't resist and pinched his cheek. But the next second, the door was kicked open, and an angry voice filled the room. Michelle, what are you doing? Charles rushed towards me, grabbing my wrist and pulling me back. The sudden move made me stumble. My arm hit the porridge, spilling it. It almost scalded me, but Louis quickly reached out and blocked my arm, taking the full hit with his. Louis inhaled sharply from the pain, his already pale face turning even whiter. I ignored everything else, shook off Charles, and pressed the call button. The nurse arrived quickly, cleaning up Louis's burn. As for Charles, realizing the mess he'd caused, he stood there with a sour expression but didn't say anything more. Once Louis's arm was bandaged, the nurse left. His eyes were slightly red, likely from the pain. He looked at me with a bit of grievance. In that moment, anger surged in my chest. I turned to Charles, my face suddenly cold. What are you doing, storming into a hospital and causing a scene this early? Hearing my words, Charles's face darkened. I had always been gentle with him, so he never thought I would be cold today. He frowned, glancing at Louis on the bed before stepping toward me. Michelle, you just met him yesterday, right? And yet you're standing with him? He saved me, and just got burned because of you. If you have any decency, you should have a nicer tone, at least apologize. If it weren't for you, Louis wouldn't have gotten hurt. He's a young, obedient kid still. Charles, this is largely your fault. You want me to apologize? Charles gritted his teeth, looking furious. Shouldn't you? My anger was matching his as I stared at him, speaking plainly. Charles, don't think I don't know. Those regrets targeting me were all you're doing. You only looked for a scapegoat when things went wrong. Because of this, you put Louis in the hospital. You should apologize if you have any decency. Hearing this, Charles's angry face turned unexpectedly panicked. No, I didn't. He seemed to be convincing himself, panic flashing in his eyes before he lifted his head with arrogance again. It was Jeff's doing, don't accuse me. I sneered. He took a deep breath, reining in his temper, his voice softening considerably. Michelle, don't make trouble. I know you're grateful he saved you, but you don't have to stay in the hospital. I can pay for a caregiver for him. Come back to school with me. His tone wasn't requesting but ordering. He was always like this, thinking that since I liked him, he could be forever above me, acting like I couldn't live without him. But I didn't need him. So I shook my head firmly, no need. We have no ties other than being schoolmates. He got hurt saving me, and I want to stay here. It has nothing to do with you. Hearing this, Charles's eyes flashed with anger. He turned to Louis in the hospital bed and let out a low, cold laugh. He's a pretty good-looking guy, no wonder you'd stay here with him. His words had this weird suggestion, not a nice one. I was about to argue back when Louis spoke up first. I think I look pretty good too, but she's here with me because she's kind-hearted. Stop being cryptic, you're not welcome here, so leave. As Louis said this, he had this aura of calmness. He had that same youthful voice, but it was firm and commanding. Charles raised an eyebrow. What's next, you gonna get in bed with him? Still worked up, I didn't hold back. I swung my hand and slapped him across the face again. I put all I had into it, even winding up for it. His head snapped to the side, and his anger flared up even more. He grabbed my neck and pinned me against the wall. Louis got a bit panicked. He didn't care about his stitches and tried to get out of bed. Louis, don't move. You'll tear your stitches. Hearing me, Louis paused. He took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. But he kept staring at Charles's face. Charles looked down at me, his eyes blazing, breathing heavily, almost gritting out the words. Michelle, why are you always like this? Any guy who saves you, and you act all grateful. Why can't life be just a little pure for you? His tone made it sound like I'd wronged him somehow. But he never gave me any response or hope. Charles, if you've got brain issues, go see a doctor. He saved me, got hurt because of it, so of course I'm taking care of him. If I left him alone in the hospital, I'd be a monster. As for liking someone, I've explained it countless times before. But he's so wrapped up in his own world, he won't believe me. Sometimes, it's not about not wanting to explain. It's knowing that no matter what you say, no matter how many times, he won't hear it. Seeing me stand firm, Charles was even angrier. He gritted his teeth and stared at me. Just answer, coming back to school with me or not? What's our relationship? Why do you get to control me? Charles, I don't like you anymore, got that? No one likes someone who tries to hurt them. He was silent for a moment, seemingly a bit in disbelief. You said, you don't like me anymore? Yeah, I don't like you. Any feelings of affection were worn down by 4 years of indifference. I was ready to give up. Today's events made me even more exhausted. And facing someone I once liked so much, all I felt now was disgust. Maybe my expression gave it away too clearly, like he was scalded. He quickly let go of my neck. Then he gave me a smirk, back to his cocky self. Michelle, don't think you're all that. I'm not upset that you don't like me. I can easily find a girlfriend tomorrow, believe it? Then go find one, stop acting crazy here. My throat was a bit sore, but I rubbed it and opened the door for him. Now, you can leave. Charles left. The drama seemed to be over for now. Louis looked worried. I sat by the bed and glanced at the bandage on his wrist, feeling guilty. Sorry, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be hurt so much. Louis shook his head and gently touched my neck. Does it hurt? Charles is always thoughtless when angry. Yeah, it hurt being strangled suddenly. But in front of Louis, I couldn't be honest. So I just gently shook my head. It doesn't hurt. Louis didn't speak, looking down as if deep in thought. After a while, he looked up at me. Did you really like him? Louis and I only met yesterday, but he helped me out, and he's genuinely sweet. I felt a strange trust with him, so I told him everything I heard that day. Maybe I really liked him before, but always chasing after him with no response was tiring. Especially with him sending thugs to scare me. Even if I liked him before, now there's only resentment left. I did feel a little sad. Louis leaned forward slightly, and gently patted my head. Don't be sad, he's not worth it. Yeah, he's not worth it at all. But Louis, are you upset that I didn't tell the police the truth? The real culprit is still out there. Louis looked down again, seemingly deep in thought. After a long moment, he shook his head gently. You must have your reasons. He's so good, so understanding, making me feel even guiltier. For the next 2 days, I had Sandy call in for me, so I could stay by Louis's side in the hospital. On the 3rd day, I was cutting fruit for Louis. On the 4th day, Sandy suddenly called, Michelle, Charles just announced he has a girlfriend. By the 5th day, he was talking about hosting a mixer tonight and bringing his girlfriend. By the 6th day, he even asked the class leader to remind me to join tonight. Sandy hesitated for a moment, like she was torn, but finally spoke up. That night, he was looking for you frantically. I really thought he liked you. Now he suddenly has a girlfriend. I don't know what's going on in his head. Alright, I've delivered the message, now it's your call. If you really don't want to go, don't force it. There are plenty of good guys out there, no need to hang yourself over just one. When she said that, I felt like my chance had come. So, I texted Sandy back, I'm going. I'll be at the party tonight. After hanging up, I turned to look at Louis and couldn't resist squeezing his cheeks. Wait for me. I'll get justice for you. He looked puzzled but nodded obediently. Good, be careful. Back at the dorm, Sandy immediately pulled me aside and started chatting away. She's my best friend at school. I didn't hold back and told her everything that had happened over the past few days, then asked her to help me out. Sandy said yes without a second thought. I grabbed something from my bed, and once everything was all set, we headed to the party together. As soon as I walked into the room, I saw Charles sitting right in the middle. There was a very pretty girl next to him. When he saw me, Charles pulled the girl in and kissed her on the cheek like no one else was in the room. Everyone else turned their eyes to me, ready for drama. In the past, seeing this scene would have made me incredibly upset. But now, I felt nothing. Sandy and I exchanged a glance, she nodded, and we both sat on a nearby empty couch. I just ignored their kissing, like I didn't even see it. Charles let go of the girl and looked at me, but I just kept talking to Sandy. When other classmates came over to chat, I just smiled and replied. Basically, I treated him like he wasn't even there. Then suddenly, someone shouted Charles. And everyone looked over again. The girl was on his lap, in a very suggestive way. At that moment, Charles looked at me through the crowd. We locked eyes for a few silent seconds. I still didn't say anything. He just snorted, grabbed the girl by the chin, and kissed her deeply. The room burst into more cheers and jeers. Someone, quite boldly, spoke up, Michelle, didn't you really like Charles before? Why aren't you upset seeing him with a new girlfriend? After that, the room went quiet, even breaking up the couple's kiss. I glanced at the person who asked. As you said, that was before. He doesn't like me anyway. No point in clinging on and annoying him. There are plenty of nice guys at college. I'm not desperate for options. Sandy chimed in, exactly. Our Michelle is both pretty and smart. Just the other day, a handsome guy from another department asked me to hand her a love letter. She's not lacking in admirers, no need to chase after anyone. With that banter, others started laughing too, and someone else dared to speak up. Really? If you're over Charles, how about giving me a shot? This guy, one of Charles's classmates, was pretty bold, though I couldn't tell if he was serious or joking, probably joking. In this kind of atmosphere, a joke was just a joke. I nodded, sure, let's hang out sometime. They raised an eyebrow and pulled out their phone to add me. Just as they were about to, Charles charged over. He grabbed my wrist, looking furious, and started dragging me out, surprising everyone. I just struggled lightly, looking back at Sandy. Sandy stood quickly, trying to pull Charles off me, but she only managed to knock his phone to the floor. Charles didn't care, just kept pulling me along. At the end of the hallway, Charles pinned me against the wall. Michelle, what do you mean? He was clearly trying to control his anger, and I met his gaze right back. I should ask you the same, Charles. What's your deal? Bringing me out here in front of your girlfriend, what do you want? Charles stared at me, silent for a long time, then asked something unrelated. Do you like that guy in the hospital? I knew he meant like, in a romantic way. I shook my head, I'm just grateful to him. Charles relaxed a lot hearing that, even his voice softened. Then why won't you come back to school with me? I frowned, finding it ridiculous. Charles, he got hurt saving me. I couldn't just leave him alone. I pushed him away firmly. But whatever I have with him is none of your business. You don't like me, and now you've got a girlfriend. We're done. From now on, our paths go separately. I won't hang on to you anymore. I intend to move on and find a new boyfriend. I put extra weight on those last words, but couldn't push him away. Charles kept me trapped in his arms, squeezing out his words. What do you mean, new boyfriend? Michelle, you like me so much, how can you just let go? I laughed. Letting go is only a matter of time. Maybe I'll get a boyfriend and really forget about you. That seemed to hit a nerve. Charles tightened his grip on my wrist, almost through gritted teeth. Then forget it. I'm not letting you get a new boyfriend. Why do you care? Because I like you. He blurted out, looking regretful right away. But there was no taking it back. So I chuckled. That's funny, Charles. You saying you like me? My reaction clearly annoyed him. Without hesitation, he shot back, what? Am I not allowed to like you? I've liked you since our freshman year. Why else would I save you? Talking about that landslide in the mountains left us both a bit speechless. If that's the case, then why treat me like this for 4 years? Silence again. Until I couldn't stand it anymore and pushed him once more. Then he finally said, I just wanted to know if you like me for me, or because I saved you, if you liked the Charles who saved your life. Does it matter? I thought his logic was off. But he nodded sincerely, of course it matters. If. He paused, shadows in his eyes, but went on. If the landslide had more than just me saving you, would you split your heart, half to me and half to them? Them? I frowned, sensing something wrong. But Charles gave me no time to think. He sighed, hands on my shoulders, eyes locked on mine. Now I've figured it out. I don't care how you think anymore. I just want one answer, will you be with me? I shook my head, are you crazy? You've got a girlfriend. I won't be the other woman. He laughed, that's just an actress I hired, to make you jealous. I laughed too but quickly turned serious, but what makes you think I'd want to be with you now? He paused, strangely flustered. I pushed him away hard, eyes cold. Charles, I actually heard what you said sneaking around outside our classroom. At that moment, he paled. I continued, I heard you say you liked me, and I knew why you wouldn't accept me. I also learned you staged an act, hiring some thugs to test me, hoping someone would play hero and see if I'd fall for them, just to test if my feelings for you were real. While talking, I pulled out that photo and slapped it on his chest. It was a picture of him from when he was a freshman. Back then, just started school, military training was exhausting. We were at the cafeteria, barely eating, when I saw Charles from afar. My heart inexplicably started racing. My hands moved faster than my head, and I snapped a picture of his profile with my phone. Then I got that photo printed and kept it by my pillow. It stayed there for 4 years. Look closely, I liked you since the first semester of freshman year. It was never because you saved my life, but what you did later made me very disappointed. As I spoke, I turned and started walking out. With that photo as proof, he'd believe me. Sure enough, he nervously grabbed my arm, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry. I just have a big insecurity. I feared you liked me just because I saved you. So, I didn't dare to be with you. I kept pushing you away, testing you over and over. I know it's my fault, trying to test you with some thugs from outside school, but I never expected them to go beyond scaring you and actually try something. Hearing his words, I stopped and turned back to him. So it was really you who got those thugs? He nodded, mumbling apologies. I did tell them to just scare you a bit, and then I sent Jeff to save you. I didn't expect things to go wrong. It was my mistake, but I'll make it up to you, okay? As he reached out to hug me, I didn't move and asked, then why did Jeff admit to it when I called the cops? Not resisting, Charles hugged me tightly, visibly easing up. That's because I paid him off. You know, with my dad in politics, we managed to have some money. I couldn't let a blemish get on my record. Jeff's family is poor, with siblings. I promised him that if he took the fall for me, I'd cover his siblings' school fees. So that's the whole truth. I let out a long sigh and pushed Charles away. Confused, he looked at me, and I pointed to the right corner. Sandy walked out, holding her phone, smiling. I waved at the camera, then turned back to Charles. Say hi to the viewers in the live stream. Sandy, a beauty blogger with over tens of thousands of followers, had her phone ready. I'd even transferred some money to her beforehand to boost visibility during the live stream. After all, no one can resist gossip. Just like that, the live audience rocketed to hundreds of thousands, making her gain over 1 million followers. She couldn't stop smiling at her phone. As for Charles, he'd hired outside thugs to intimidate me, nearly leading to me getting assaulted, and someone got injured and hospitalized because of it. He used his family's influence and paid off someone to take the fall. Nothing stays hidden before a live audience. With hundreds of thousands of eyes watching, it quickly became a widely known issue online. No one dares to openly break the law. Charles will face consequences, and his father George will also be investigated. Although this issue could have been bigger, once George was mentioned, it had to be escalated. The school also had to make a statement urgently. If not, next year's enrollment could suffer, and they'd carry a stain. So, Charles won't continue his studies. He's expelled. When the cops came to take him away that day, his eyes were red with anger, clutching my hand, asking why I did this to him. I told him, you have the right not to like me, but you can't hurt me. The harm done in the name of love is even worse. If it hadn't been for Louis, I'm not sure if I'd have had the courage to continue if something had happened to me that day. Luckily, I found courage for once. Charles, you should pay for what you've done. You can only blame yourself, not others. I won't feel guilty about it because it's his bed he made. After wrapping things up, I rushed back to the hospital. Louis seemed to have been waiting for me. I told him everything that happened today. He smiled at me, being as gentle as ever. Thank you. I couldn't help but smile back. You don't need to apologize to me. I had the duty to reveal the truth and get you justice. I didn't say anything before because I didn't have any evidence and didn't want to alert anyone. But the justice for Louis and me had to be served, so we had to wait. Wait until Charles let his guard down and spoke the truth himself. By then, everyone who needs to face consequences won't escape. Louis waved at me to come closer. I sat by his bed, and he poked my cheek, looking a bit disappointed but also wistful. I'm not thanking you for the whole thing. Then why? I was surprised and looked at him. Louis just laughed and edged closer. No rush, you'll remember eventually. Does this mean I've forgotten something important? I still didn't remember, so I followed the prior plan and stayed at the hospital for a few more days. On the day I was supposed to leave, Charles asked to see me. The crime he committed wasn't huge technically, so he was only held for 10 days. His father wasn't as lucky. With numerous eyes on their family, especially on George, he was directly summoned for questioning, and an investigation into their assets was underway. For now, there wasn't a definite outcome, but Charles, his reputation was dead online, and if he went out, he'd have to wear a mask or risk getting pelted with rotten eggs. I didn't really want to see him. But he said there was something I definitely wanted to know. Something about Louis. So I went. When Charles saw me, he wasn't as cocky as before. All of his former confidence came from George, and that foundation might collapse now. Without the swagger, he looked utterly defeated. So, what exactly is going on? He looked up, his eyes unreadable. Michelle, do you still like me now? If you're here to talk nonsense, I'm leaving. I already stood up. Okay, let's not talk about that. What about Louis? Finally, back on topic. I sat down again and looked at him. Charles gave a self-deprecating laugh. Haven't you always thought I was weird, always hung up on the landslide incident, wondering if you had a hero complex? That's because, back then, I wasn't the only one who saved you. Yeah, I figured. When he said that, I felt something was off. But I had more important things to worry about then, so I didn't think much of it. Later, I had my suspicions. He continued, at first, I didn't recognize Louis because he changed so much. How so? He gave a wry smile. Louis was probably 13 or 14 years old then. Anyway, he wasn't very tall, just a skinny little kid, but surprisingly strong. His hands were all cut up from digging, yet he didn't give up and finally got you out. But he was exhausted and could only hand you over to me to take you to the hospital. And him, well, he probably passed out. I don't know. Honestly, all I could think about was you. So, technically, the person who really saved you was the two of us. That's why Charles was always worried. If I only liked him because he saved my life, but he hid that someone else was also involved and took all the credit himself. He's scared I'd find out and kept pushing me away to make sure my love was real. It's kind of funny. Charles, gratefulness from a good deed won't turn into love. Unfortunately, it's too late to talk about it now. Because now, I only feel disgust for him, not a speck of affection. After leaving, I suddenly remembered something. That year Sandy and I went to the city next door to hang out. We passed by some houses below the hill when hiking. How to describe it? Very poor. The house was run down, made of dirt, and a skinny little boy was there with an old book, reading so intently. That day, I went over just to ask for some water. He poured me a bowl of hot water and called me sister. I asked his name, how old he was, what grade he was in. He said, Louis, 15 years old, quit school. I asked why he quit. He pointed to his leaky roof, still looking like a child but acting mature beyond his years. Because he couldn't afford school. I felt dumb for even asking. How should I put it? I was just being naive, thinking fate brought us together. He really looked serious while reading. I thought, why not help if I can? I always saved my money, had quite a bit from Chinese New Year gifts and part-time jobs after finals. I had stuffed a good amount of cash in my bag, about 10 grand maybe. just in case some places didn't take card. So that day, I took all the cash I had and handed it to Louis. I told him, study hard. I look forward to the day you change your life. His eyes turned red as he looked up at me. He asked my name. I told him I was Michelle, a college freshman studying in the city next door. He said okay, he would try hard. And in 3 years, he'd find me at college to thank me in person. I didn't really think anything about that promise at the time. Just felt like helping where I could. Not to mention the sudden landslide afterward. Barely escaped death there. Such a scare. Later, I sometimes thought of the boy I helped but forgot his name. Worried he'd fall short, I sent more money from my savings to his address. Did some math. It should have been enough for the 3 years. That's all I could do. Then I forgot about it completely. I never thought one day that skinny little boy would grow up and stand in front of me like this. To be honest, I'm kind of awed. And a little excited. Did I do a good deed? Thinking about it, I chuckled softly. A familiar voice rang in my ears. Michelle. It was the young voice. I turned around. Louis was just a short distance away, waving at me. White shirt, black pants, bright smile. He's grown well, and his future will be even better. We'll both become better. Louis's epilogue: my life has been pretty rough. If I hadn't met Michelle, I don't know what my life would have turned into. Probably would have been stuck at a construction site, or maybe in some factory. Would never be like this, sitting in a bright, spacious classroom, listening to the teacher, dreaming about the future. Michelle, Michelle. I've whispered that name countless times alone at night. She sent me money twice, which helped me finish high school. I got into J City University, becoming her classmate as I had hoped. I was thrilled to finally fulfill the promise I made to her. On my first day, I went looking for her. She likes it when I'm polite, so I wore a white shirt, kept my hair neat and clean. I did my best to look innocent and harmless, then approached her. I imagined our reunion many times. Maybe she'd be shocked at how much I've changed. Never thought she'd forget me. Was a little sad. I watched her walk past, chatting about things she liked. She seemed happy. That was enough for me. But I was a bit greedy, hoping to be her friend, even just as a little brother. Michelle. I learned about her recent life and her struggles, knew she worked late on weekends. I told her I wanted to get to know her again. So I found a part-time job near hers. Left and returned around the same times. I figured being close was a chance to meet, right? But before I came up with a good excuse to approach her, that accident happened. I was ready to risk my life, but she'd be safe. Thank goodness, she was okay. I was happy, using one scar as a chance for us to meet again. I told her my name was Louis. But it was fine, meeting anew. I wasn't that helpless kid anymore. I grew up. Maybe I could help her now. People are greedy. First, I just wanted to be closer. Then, interact more. Eventually, wanted to stay with her. I like her. A lot. I hoped if I acted even sweeter, she might like me too. Even if it's just my face. Charles isn't a good guy. But I'll always care for her, for life and death. When everything came out, she ran to me, saying she remembered it all. She asked why I didn't tell her that I'd saved her. I thought for a bit, didn't quite know what to say. At that time, she was a stranger I was grateful for. Hearing about the landslide, knowing she might be in danger, I couldn't do nothing. I was lucky to find her. But just digging her out of the rubble took all my strength. I couldn't carry her to the hospital. Charles helped when I got Michelle out. Clearly, he liked her, knew her name, maybe they were friends or classmates. He could get her to the hospital. I didn't think much, just wanted Michelle to survive. That's all. So, I didn't know how to start. She saw me quiet inside, a bit guilty. If only I'd remembered you sooner. I shook my head, It's not too late now. I gave her a smile I'd practiced, one that I knew she liked. Just as I figured, she patted my head, saying I was really sweet. My heart raced. Actually, I wanted to say, you can stroke my hair forever. But there's no rush. We have plenty of times ahead. She promised to spend my 18th birthday with me. We're friends now, but we might not always be just friends. Because no one will love her more than I do. And she'll be mine. No one can take her away from me.